Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, I know, and I really miss you guys. So today I'm going to show you an exciting game, which is an instructive game to be honest. And you might heard about this tournament in London right now, 2025, June 13th I think today is. And this is a World Blitz and Rapid Team Championship. So this game was played between Hikaru Nakamura and Michael Adams, as you can see on the board. And this was in rapid portion, which is 15 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. Okay, so let's dive into this game. Okay. So Hikaru started with C4, and if you follow Hikaru's games, you know that he's a universal player, so he basically plays everything, especially if he plays shorter time controls. So C4 is called English opening. It can transpose to other openings as well, but after E5, it is English opening, and this is kind of interesting because Michael Adams is one of the best players from England, and I don't know why Hikaru chose this one, but maybe because you know, he is from England. And another thing here is that when I was growing up, Michael Adams actually was one of the best players in the world. I remember, I think he was at least top 10 in the world, and he was 2700 player. I think he lost some rating points, but still a very strong player. Okay, so white played here A3, black played knight f6, and white played here D3. After D3, we have reverse Sicilian defense. If you play Sicilian defense, you know that white starts with E4 and then black plays C5, knight f3, D6, and later on black might play this move A6 as well. So A6 is a useful move in Sicilian defense. So after C4, E5, A3, knight f6, D3, black played G6. G6 is also a logical move. Black wants to fianchetto his bishop. White played knight f3, D6, attacking this pawn, so black protected the pawn. White played B4. The idea behind this move is to fianchetto the bishop. Black played bishop G7, bishop B2, castle, E3. Okay, here white needs to choose if he wants to play E3 or G3 in order to bring the bishop out, because we are still in the opening phase of the game. And as you know, in the opening, we want to get our pieces out as soon as possible. And here Hikaru chose this move E3 with this idea bishop E2. Black played here A5. Sorry for the arrows on the board, because actually I recorded this video and then I realized I didn't hit the record button, or I don't know, somehow it vanished. So that's why I'm doing it for the second time, guys. That is just a fun fact. Okay, anyway. So after A5, black is kind of provoking white to either take or push the pawn, but neither of these moves would work here, because if we take, this is usually a better position for black, because black can play, for example, knight c6 with this idea, knight takes a5. But even if black just takes this pawn, you see that white has 2 pawn islands and black has just 1 pawn island. And in chess, we usually prefer to have fewer pawn islands. Why? Because our pawns are connected and they can protect each other. as opposed to white's position where he had where he has two pawn lands. The pawn a3 can be vulnerable, and this is an isolated pawn that can be a target, later on in the game. So that's why taking a pawn on a5 is not a good idea. If white wants to push the pawn, okay, it has its own drawback as well, because the knight can move to c5 and we no longer control that square. So probably white prefers to just keep the tension. And here white played knight d2. You might ask, okay, why didn't he play bishop e2 to castle? Because we usually want to castle as soon as possible, right? But the point here is that since the center is closed, so white is not in rush to castle and get the king out of the center, because there is no attack towards the king yet. And the idea behind knight d2 is that white is protecting the rook. So later on, if black takes this pawn, white can take with the queen, which actually happened later on in the game. So black took the pawn on b4, white took here, black took here, and then queen takes a1. So the queen is controlling the only open file in the game. So here black played knight a6, and black is attacking the pawn on b4. White played bishop c3, white is protecting the pawn. Black played queen e7, bishop e2, c5. Okay, the idea behind c5 is that if you look at this position, the knight on a6 doesn't have a lot of squares to go. So probably he's got just one safe square on b8. And we usually don't want to move our knight back, especially if it's the 8th rank. So that's why black wants white to take, so he can take back with the knight. And okay, if white doesn't take, black wants to take here and exchange this knight with the bishop. So for example, let's say if white plays something like that, this is a good trade for black. Of course, there are some ideas like tactical moves like that to open up that bishop as well. But besides e4, even if black can exchange these two pieces, it's better for black. So that's why here white didn't protect the pawn. Instead, he pushed the pawn. Okay, so b5 was played. Black played knight c7. White castled. Black played b6. Okay, b6, as you can see, there's a question mark by computer. Why? Because if the pawn is on b7, it's much harder for white to attack the pawn. But once black moves this pawn to b6, now this pawn is unprotected. So white can play queen a7 with the idea to take the pawn. Probably, I would assume that both players saw this line and then they saw knight cd5, which is a tactical move. Okay, apparently we can take the knight, right? But there is a knight, there is a queen hanging on a7. So if we take here, black can simply take the queen and win the game. And if white takes the queen, the knight can take back. And probably the players thought, okay, this is about equal. There is no problem for black, and black can, protect this pawn later on. But actually, white has a better position, and the computer gives a kind of good advantage to white after rook a1 to control the only open file and trying to, penetrate to black's position. And this position is about 0.7, 0.8. Yeah, so this is computer suggestion, but white didn't play queen a7. He played queen b2 instead. And what white wants to do here is to control the open file with the rook. So rook a1. Okay, so black played bishop b7, which makes sense. You want to move your bishop to this diagonal. White played rook a1, and then black played knight e6, knight e1, rook a8. The idea behind this move is to play bishop f3. Because if you look at this position, what are the good pieces and bad pieces? According to the pawn structure, probably this is a good bishop versus a bad bishop. Why? Because black pawns are on dark squares. We usually look at the pawns in the center. And this is the opposite kind of for white. White's dark square bishop is better than the light square bishop. So that's why here white wants to exchange his bad bishop for this good bishop, right? So that's why he played knight e1. But also notice that English opening is usually a positional game. So if you play such openings, you need to be more patient, and it's not an open position. So it's not like, for example, Spanish, Italian, Scotch game that you can open up the center immediately and attack and so on. So we have kind of more or less a slow game here. It's not a tactical game yet, but you will see that later on how white basically finds this interesting idea. Okay, so rook a8, and white played bishop f3, bishop takes f3, knight takes f3, queen b7, knight e1, knight d7. Okay, so the players are trying to maneuver their knights and put them to better squares. White played knight e4, black played d5. Okay, according to the computer, you can even play f5. And ask white if he wants to take a free pawn. And after knight takes d6, okay, this is a tricky position, but the only move for black is to play queen b8. The other moves are going to lose. So queen b8, black is still fine. Black wants to take here and then take the knight. So probably white needs to exchange the rooks. And here, it's white who has the only move. And the only move to save the game for white is to play f4. And after f4, it's about equal. So this is a very interesting position because if, white plays something else, let's say I just play h3, black can simply play queen b8, and now this queen is attacking the knight on d6, and the knight doesn't have a safe square here. So here, black didn't play f5, he played d5. So to protect his pawn, to push the pawn and attack this knight on e4. So white played knight d6, and black played this nice move, queen b8, rook takes, queen takes, pawn takes, queen takes, knight c4. This is a very good square. White is trying to put pressure on e5, and black pushed the pawn to e4, which is a good move. And the reason is, if white can block this pawn, later on white can put more pressure on the pawn. So this is a weakness. And also, if this pawn stays on e5, we are going to have a good bishop versus bad bishop. So probably black doesn't want that, and that's why he pushed the pawn to e4. Okay, so e4, bishop takes, knight takes g7, queen c2 to protect the pawn, pawn takes, knight e6. You might think, okay, this is about equal, right? And black should not be worse. Why not? Because black has a pass pawn. Black already has a pass pawn. And we know that when we get into the end game, pass pawns are very important for us. But luckily for white, white has this strong knight on c4, which blocks the passed pawn. And the knight on c4 is a really strong knight, forcing this knight to stay on d7 to protect here. So it's about an equal position, I would say. And white can think about attacking black's dark squares because, as you know, whenever we push a pawn in front of our king, we can create some weaknesses, and these squares are more vulnerable. Of course, we prefer to have a dark square bishop, but here, as you will see later on in the game, white is going to try to put pressure on these dark squares. Okay. So white played f3, black played h5, logical move, h4, queen e8, knight f2, queen check here, queen f6, attacking this pawn, queen e4, protects the pawn, queen c3, queen d5. Okay, so queen d5 is attacking the knight, but also preparing this move knight here. So black played king g7. The idea is black is, if white takes this knight, black can also take the white's knight. So this is totally fine for black. So that's why here white played knight e4, and now white is attacking the queen on c3. And white found this beautiful move, queen e1. Why? Because if white takes the knight, it looks like a free knight, right? But actually, black does have a resourceful move here. Black can play queen takes h4, king g1, queen e1 check, and this king has only one square. And black can just repeat the position. So we are going to get a perpetual check, and it's a draw. Okay, so let's get back into the game. After queen e1, knight g3, queen c3 was played. Queen c3 was not a good move. A better move here was to play queen b4, because not only he is controlling, or like he's attacking this square, but he's also attacking the pawn on b5. But okay, black played this move, white played knight d6, which is the right move. And notice that after queen b4 we couldn't play this move either, because then there was queen h4, and actually black could win the game. As you saw, the evaluation bar just dropped down, and the point here is that the king is in check, and if the king moves, for example, the queen can just take this knight. Okay, so that's why queen b4 was a better move, but queen c3 was played, knight d6, knight e5. Okay, now the players are really getting low in time, especially black. Black has just 1 minute on the clock. Hikaru, as white, has 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So he played knight g4, which is the right move, queen here, and knight g5. Okay, knight g5 is a good move, but not the best move in this position. The best move here was to play knight e8 check, and let's say if the king goes to h8 or g8, doesn't matter, and then he plays something like queen here. But again, it's not clear yet how white can checkmate the king, because okay, we want to check here and then check and checkmate here, right? But black still has a move. Black can play here. And okay, the game continues, knight d6, and white is still better. It's like 0.6, 0.7, but there is no clear way to win. So that's why I think Hikaru didn't go for this line. He played knight g5. Another move that white could play here was to play knight takes f7. This is also a nice move. Why? Because if the king takes, now I can check here, the knight is pinned, and then I can take this knight. And if he takes with the knight, then I can take the other knight. Of course, after knight takes f7, White needs to calculate this move, but after king g3, white's king is safe, and here white can just exchange the queens, and apparently this position is better for white. Okay, another move he can play is knight eg5, but this is kind of a tricky position. I mean, both kings are really exposed, so I don't think when you are low in time you want to calculate such lines, to be honest with you. So that's why he didn't take on f7. Okay, so instead he played knight g5, knight takes g5, which was a bad move. Okay, why is it a bad move? Because if you remember, we talked about the weaknesses on dark squares, right? But probably at this point, Michael Adams was, in time pressure. He had just 1 minute, and he wanted to simplify the position. But the point is, if we take here, we make our position worse, because now these squares are really, really vulnerable, and white wants to kick this knight to win that pawn on f7. So a better move here was probably to play knight c7, even though white was still in a better position, but much harder for white to win the game. But here, Michael Adams made a mistake. It's a blunder. H takes g5. He played this move. Queen e8 check. Okay, if we push the pawn, there is a check on g4, so we can't do that. But check here, king here, and knight e4. If the king goes to g7, we can even get to f6 by checks. So king f7 is forced. Knight e4 is a great move. If we play knight e8, there's this move, which is very nice for black, and he can take the knight back. So white still needs to be careful and play the most accurate move. So he played knight e4. Now after knight takes f3, white can play here, and now we have two threats to checkmate on g8 and to take the knight. Okay, so after knight e4, black played king g7, white played knight f6. We want to checkmate on g8. There's no defense. Knight takes f3, queen takes f3, queen takes b5, and queen a8. So the idea is to play queen g8, and black doesn't have any defense in this position. Okay, I hope you guys liked this game. This was not a tactical game, and I know that tactical games can be exciting, but I think if you want to improve in chess, you need to also improve your positional game, especially such games that it's about maneuvering, about putting your pieces on the right squares, and be patient, and just play according to the position. So you don't want to attack just for no reason, So you need to have a good reason to attack, and there should be a weakness if you want to attack. Okay, so make sure to subscribe to my channel if you don't want to lose my next videos. And thank you for watching. I'll see you soon on the next video. Thank you.